throwaway account because some of our mutual friends use Reddit. I, 34M, have been married to my wife, 32F, for 7 years. Together for 10. No kids. For most of that time, I would have told you we were solid. Not perfect. She's always been sharp-tongued, brutally honest to the point of being cruel sometimes. But I thought that was just her personality. She'd snap, then laugh it off. I learned to absorb it. Looking back, I think I confused intensity for passion. About 6 months ago, something shifted. Subtle at first. She started guarding her phone like it contained state secrets. Screen always face down. Notifications silenced. She changed her password because my coworker tried to grab it as a joke. That sounded flimsy, but I didn't push. She also started lying about small things. Weird, pointless lies. Saying she was at the grocery store when I could hear traffic and music in the background. Telling me she had a late meeting. Then coming home smelling like perfume that wasn't hers. Something sweeter, heavier. When I asked, she'd snap. You're being paranoid. Not everything is about you. That became her go-to phrase. You're paranoid. Our arguments got sharper. She'd pick fights over nothing. Dishes, how I folded towels, the way I chewed. It felt like she was building a case against me, stacking tiny grievances like bricks. Every time I tried to talk about feeling distant, she'd flip it. Maybe if you weren't so insecure, we wouldn't have this problem. But here's the thing. I wasn't insecure before. I started feeling like I was living with a stranger who looked exactly like my wife. The first real crack happened on a Tuesday night. She said she had a work dinner. I remember because she wore a dress she hadn't touched in years. Tight black one. The one she used to wear when we first started dating. She hadn't dressed up like that for me in a long time. When she walked out the door, she didn't kiss me. That's when my stomach dropped for the first time. I didn't know it yet, but that was the beginning of everything unraveling. After that Tuesday, I wish I could say I confronted her right away. I didn't. I told myself I was overthinking it. Marriage has phases, right? People get distant. Stress happens. But the lies kept multiplying. 2 days after the work dinner, I casually asked how it went. She didn't even look up from her phone. Fine. What restaurant did you guys go to? She hesitated. Just a beat too long. That Italian place. Downtown. We don't even have an Italian place downtown anymore. It closed last year. I reminded her. She rolled her eyes. God, I meant the one on Maple. Why are you interrogating me? That word, interrogating, hit hard. I wasn't accusing. I was asking. Then came the sudden gym obsession. She'd never liked the gym. Suddenly, she was going 5 nights a week. New leggings. New sports bras. A water bottle that never seemed used when she came home. One night she came back at almost 10:30 p.m., flushed, hair messy. I asked how her workout was. She snapped immediately. Do you need to track my movements now? Should I share my location too? The aggression was instant. Defensive before I even accused. That's when I started noticing how often she'd accuse me of what she was doing. You're distant. You don't care about this marriage. You don't try anymore. It was like she was rewriting reality in real time. Then something weird happened. I ran into one of her coworkers at the hardware store that Saturday. Small talk. I mentioned her busy week. He frowned. Busy? It's been dead at the office. We haven't had any late meetings. I felt my ears ringing. He even joked, maybe she's got a secret second job. Yeah, maybe. I didn't confront her that night. I watched her instead. She was laughing at something on her phone, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in months. Not at me. Not because of anything we'd done together. At 1:17 a.m., I woke up and she wasn't in bed. She was in the living room, whispering. When she came back, she said she couldn't sleep. And she didn't even blink when she lied. That was the moment the paranoia she kept accusing me of started feeling like intuition. I didn't sleep after that 1:17 a.m. whisper session. I lay there staring at the ceiling, heart pounding like I'd just run a marathon. Every worst-case scenario was playing in my head. I kept replaying her tone, soft, almost intimate. Not how she talks to coworkers. Not how she talks to me anymore. The next morning, she acted completely normal. Cheerful, even. Made coffee. Kissed my cheek like nothing was wrong. It messed with my head more than if she'd been cold. I decided I needed proof. Not because I wanted to snoop. I hated that I even felt driven to that. But because every time I brought something up, she twisted it back on me. I was crazy. Jealous. Controlling. So I waited. 3 nights later, she had to stay late again. Same black dress. Same perfume I didn't recognize. And here's where things escalated fast. About an hour after she left, she texted me. Don't wait up. Might crash at Melissa's. Too tired to drive back. Melissa lives 12 minutes away. We've driven home half dead from road trips longer than that. Something snapped in me. I called Melissa. She answered on the second ring, confused. Hey, everything okay? I asked if my wife was there. Silence. Then, no? I haven't seen her in weeks. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I might throw up. I didn't text my wife. I didn't call her. I grabbed my keys. And here's the part I'm not proud of. I drove toward the area where her office is. I didn't know what I was looking for. Just something. Halfway there, I saw her car. Parked outside a bar across town. Not near her office. Not near Melissa's. And I just sat there across the street, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. I told myself maybe she was meeting coworkers. Then I saw her. She walked out laughing. With him. I didn't recognize the guy. Tall. Confident. Hand on the small of her back like he'd done it 100 times. She leaned into him. And then she kissed him. Not a quick peck. Not confused. Not hesitant. It was comfortable. Like muscle memory. And in that exact second, the last 6 months made perfect, devastating sense. Didn't storm across the street. I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. I just sat there. It's crazy how your body reacts before your brain catches up. My ears were ringing. My hands were shaking. My chest felt hollow, like someone scooped everything out and left an echo behind. They didn't look rushed. That's what gutted me. She was relaxed, smiling, laughing at something he said. He brushed her hair back. She leaned into him again like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like I didn't exist. At one point she pulled out her phone. I watched her type something. A minute later, my phone buzzed. Staying at Melissa's. Don't wait up, red heart. The heart emoji. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so absurdly cruel. I was watching her kiss another man while she sent me a heart. That was the moment the denial died. I stayed there longer than I should have. Long enough to see them get into his car instead of hers. She left her car in the parking lot. That detail mattered. It meant planning. It meant she'd done this before. I drove home in silence. No music. No tears. Just numb. When I got back to the house, it felt different. Smaller. Like the walls were closer. I walked into our bedroom and just stood there. Her side of the bed looked untouched. Her closet was half open. I opened her dresser. I don't even know why. That's when I noticed lingerie I'd never seen before. Tag still on one set. Another clearly worn. She hadn't worn anything like that for me in years. I sat on the floor and finally lost it. Not screaming. Not punching walls. Just quiet, ugly crying that feels like it's coming from somewhere deep in your spine. And here's the part that really messed me up. I still wanted her to come home and tell me there was some explanation. Some insane, ridiculous, impossible explanation. Because accepting what I saw meant accepting that the woman I married had been lying to my face for months, maybe longer. And I wasn't ready for that yet. She walked in at 9:42 the next morning. I know the exact time because I'd been sitting on the couch staring at the front door since 6 a.m. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I just waited. When the door opened, she looked normal. A little tired, sure. But not guilty. Not panicked. Hey, she said casually, kicking off her shoes. Melissa made us stay up way too late. The lie came out so easily it almost impressed me. I just looked at her. You good? She asked, narrowing her eyes slightly. Not concerned, assessing. I said, how was Melissa's? Without missing a beat. Fun. We drank wine. Talked crap about work. Why? I felt my pulse in my throat. What bar did you guys go to? She frowned. We didn't go to a bar. Why are you being weird? Weird. I stood up slowly. I saw you. The shift in her face was microscopic, but real. Her jaw tightened for half a second. Saw me where? At the bar on 8th. With him. Silence. Then she laughed. Actually laughed. Oh my God. Are you serious right now? I swear. That reaction hurt more than the kiss. You followed me? She snapped, her voice getting sharp instantly. That's psycho. Psycho. You lied, I said. My voice sounded strange, calm in a way that didn't match how I felt inside. I saw you kiss him. Her eyes went cold. That was a coworker, she said flatly. We had drinks. It was nothing. You're blowing this out of proportion. Nothing. You got in his car, I said. She crossed her arms. Defensive. Aggressive. Because I didn't want to drive. We were drinking. God, you're acting insane. And then, This is what made my brain short-circuit. She flipped it. Maybe if you weren't so distant lately, I wouldn't need someone to actually talk to. I felt like I'd been slapped. So now it was my fault. She didn't apologize. She didn't look ashamed. She didn't even deny the kiss directly again. She minimized, redirected, attacked. And standing there in my own living room, I realized something horrifying. She wasn't scared of losing me. She was annoyed at being caught. I thought catching her in a lie would force the truth out. I was wrong. The second I didn't back down, the narrative started shifting in real time. First it was nothing. Then when I asked if she'd slept with him, she scoffed. God, no. You're disgusting. 5 minutes later, it became, it's not what you think. And then, when I pointed out that Melissa had no idea what she was talking about, she changed lanes again. Okay, I didn't stay at Melissa's. I just needed space. Space. I remember saying, from what? She stared at me like I was stupid. From you constantly hovering, questioning everything, making me feel trapped. Trapped. I felt like I was in some twisted debate club where reality didn't matter, only dominance. Did you sleep with him? I asked again. She hesitated this time. That pause told me everything. Then she said it. Once. Just one word. No tears. No shaking voice. No visible remorse. Just once. Like she was admitting to ordering the wrong coffee. I felt heat rush to my face. My ears buzzed. I honestly thought I might pass out. Where? I asked. At his place. When? Another pause. A few weeks ago. Which meant all those late meetings. All those gym nights. All those tiny lies. Calculated. And last night. I pushed. She rolled her eyes. We just talked. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. You kissed him. It's complicated, she snapped. No, it wasn't. And then came the line I'll never forget. I didn't plan for it to happen. Except she'd planned the car situation. The alibi. The overnight bag she forgot in her trunk. The new lingerie. That's not an accident. That's logistics. And here's what really twisted the knife. She wasn't breaking down. She wasn't begging. She wasn't terrified. She was irritated. Like I'd inconvenienced her by finding out. And in that moment, the anger finally hit me. Not explosive. Not screaming. Cold. Controlled. The kind of anger that changes things permanently. After she said, once, the room felt smaller. Quieter. Like all the oxygen had been sucked out. I asked her one more time, very clearly. Are you still seeing him? She didn't answer immediately. That silence again. Then, I don't know. I swear that hurt worse than the confession. You don't know? You either choose your marriage or you don't. But she wasn't choosing. She was calculating. I asked if she loved him. She snapped back instantly. Don't be dramatic. That wasn't a no. I sat down because my legs felt weak. My brain was trying to process two realities at once. The woman I married and the person standing in front of me. Why? I finally asked. And that's when the blame shifting went nuclear. You stopped trying. You're boring now. You never challenge me. I need excitement. Excitement. 10 years together reduced to that word. I reminded her of the trips we took. The nights we stayed up talking. The way we built this life from scratch. The apartment we painted ourselves because we couldn't afford movers. She shrugged. People change. That's when something inside me cracked. Because yeah, people change. But they don't usually turn into someone who lies straight to your face, kisses someone else, then sends you a heart emoji while doing it. I asked her if she felt guilty. She hesitated, and then said, I felt bad at first. At first. So why keep going? I asked. She looked at me like I was missing something obvious. Because it feels good to be wanted. That line hit deep. Was I not wanting her enough? Had I missed something? Or was that just another way to justify it? The scary part? She wasn't crying. She wasn't breaking down. She was defending it. And right then, sitting across from her, I had this terrifying realization. If I hadn't caught her, she would have kept going. Not because she hated me, but because she thought she could. That's when I stopped arguing and started thinking about what my life would look like without her. You'd think after admitting it, she'd calm down. Nope. The next 24 hours were psychological warfare. She suddenly flipped into reasonable mode. Soft voice. Measured tone. Like we were discussing a scheduling conflict instead of the implosion of our marriage. We can work through this, she said that night. Couples go through worse. Worse than what? Rewriting reality for 6 months? I asked her if she'd cut contact with him. She sighed dramatically. It's not that simple. Translation, She didn't want to. Then came the emotional whiplash. At one point she was angry. "You're acting like I murdered someone." An hour later, she was vulnerable. "I've been unhappy for a long time." Then defensive again. "If you'd been more attentive." Then cold. "Maybe we rushed into marriage." It was like she was throwing every possible narrative at the wall to see which one stuck. And here's where it gets more twisted. The next morning, I got a text from an unknown number. "Hey, you don't know me, but I think you deserve the truth." My heart nearly stopped. It was him. He sent screenshots. Messages between them going back for months. Not once. Not a few weeks. For months of flirting, planning, hotel reservations. Jokes about how clueless I was. One message from her. "He'll never leave. He's too safe." Too safe. I had to sit down on the kitchen floor again because my legs gave out. This wasn't just physical. This wasn't "I made a mistake." This was sustained. Intentional. And she'd been mocking me. And then, as if the universe wasn't done, she walked in from the shower while I was staring at the screenshots. She saw my face. "What now?" she said, irritated. I turned the phone toward her. She went pale for the first time. Not because of what she did, but because she'd lost control of the narrative. When she saw the screenshots, something finally cracked. Not guilt. Fear. "Why is he texting you?" she snapped immediately. That was her first reaction. Not "I'm sorry." Not "I messed up." Control. I told her he said I deserved the truth. She grabbed her phone and started typing furiously. I could see her hands shaking now, not because she felt bad for me, but because he'd broken whatever pact they had. "You went through my phone?" she demanded. "I didn't have to," I said. "He sent them." She went silent. Then defensive. "He's obsessed. He's trying to ruin my life." Ruin her life. Not our marriage. Her life. I asked her why he'd send months of messages if it was just once. She didn't answer. So I read one out loud. The one where she joked about how I was predictable. The one where she called me comfortable but uninspiring. The one where she said sneaking around made her feel alive. She looked embarrassed for exactly 3 seconds. Then the claws came out again. "You weren't supposed to see that," she said flatly. That line hit me harder than anything else. Not denial. Not apology. Just, you weren't supposed to see it. Like the betrayal wasn't the problem, the exposure was. I asked her point blank if she loved him. This time she didn't dodge. "I don't know what I feel." There it was again. Not choosing. Keeping options open. And then, out of nowhere, she dropped another bomb. "He wants me to leave you." I stared at her. And I asked. She didn't answer immediately. And in that silence, I realized something brutal. She wasn't fighting for us. She was weighing him against me. Like we were 2 job offers. That's when the anger finally turned into something colder. Clarity. I wasn't in a marriage. I was in a competition I didn't know I'd entered. The weird thing about betrayal is that the rage burns hot, but it doesn't last. What replaces it is worse. That night, after everything was out in the open, she went to sleep in the guest room. Just like that. No dramatic crying. No long talk. She said, "We'll figure it out tomorrow." Like we were discussing a leaky faucet. I stayed in our bed. And that's when it hit me. The memories. Our wedding day. The way she squeezed my hand when she walked down the aisle. The first apartment with the terrible plumbing. The time we stayed up until 3 a.m. planning our future like it was this exciting map we were building together. And now I was staring at the ceiling realizing that while I was remembering us, she was building something with someone else. The grief came in waves. Not just because she slept with him, but because she lied so smoothly. For months. Because she could kiss him and then text me a heart emoji. Because she called me safe, like it was an insult. I kept replaying every interaction from the past 6 months. Every fight. Every time she said I was paranoid. Every time she accused me of being distant. I wasn't distant. I was reacting to the shift. I just didn't know what it was yet. Around 2 a.m., I broke down again. But this time it wasn't angry tears. It was mourning. Mourning the version of her I thought I knew. Mourning the version of myself that believed we were solid. Mourning the life I thought was stable. There's something uniquely painful about realizing you were the only one protecting the relationship. The next morning, I woke up exhausted but strangely calm. The shock was gone. What was left was a heavy, aching sadness. And beneath that, a question I couldn't ignore anymore. Why am I fighting for someone who isn't fighting for me? The next morning, I decided I needed answers. Not excuses, not, "Maybe it's complicated," but clarity. I sat her down at the kitchen table. The same one where we used to share weekend breakfasts, laughing over pancakes and burnt coffee. I tried to keep my voice steady. Do you want this marriage? She looked away. Typical. Sharp inhale. Then, I don't know. I felt my chest tighten. I had asked a simple question, and her answer was a shrug. A literal shrug. I asked her point blank, do you want to be with him? Her eyes narrowed. I haven't decided. I just know I need space. Space. Every time she said that word, it felt like a knife twisting. Space from me. Space from the truth. Space from responsibility. I pressed on. Have you been emotionally cheating this whole time? Because I need to know. She sighed, rolling her eyes in a way that used to be playful, but now felt cruel. I've been distant. You don't see it. You're always complaining. Maybe you made me feel like this. I froze. The gaslighting had begun in earnest. Not just the lies, not just the kiss, but the blame shifting, the subtle undermining, the constant, you're the problem. I told her, I am not responsible for your choices. I can't fix what you decided to do. I deserve the truth. Her shoulders tensed. She looked like she wanted to snap at me, then collapse into tears, but she didn't. Instead, she quietly admitted, yes, I've been seeing him. No tears, no remorse, just factual, like she was reading off a grocery list. That hit me harder than anything else. The casualness of it, the absence of emotion. And that's when I realized I wasn't just betrayed. I was irrelevant. Her actions weren't about love or even lust entirely. They were about control, excitement, and ego, and I wasn't part of the equation anymore. The realization made the room spin. I sat there, stunned, processing that the woman I had spent a decade with could do this and not look back. It was the beginning of the end, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. But the worst part? I still loved her. I didn't want to, but I did. And that made everything infinitely more complicated. After that conversation, I was trapped in a constant loop. Shock, anger, sadness, confusion, anger again, sometimes numbness. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. My brain replayed every moment of the past 6 months in painful detail. Every lie, every deflection, every "you're paranoid" turned dagger. I caught myself checking her phone once. I swore I wouldn't, just to see if she was still texting him. Of course, she was. Still smiling in those messages. Still joking. Still planning. Still alive in a way I wasn't. Some nights I'd sit on the couch, staring at the living room where we had movie nights, trying to convince myself it wasn't real. That maybe this was just a weird phase. That maybe she'd come back and tell me it was over. Some nights, though, I would picture them together, laughing in bed, holding hands, texting in secret, and I'd rage silently, fists clenching until my nails dug into my palms. I started noticing small things about her differently. The way she spoke to me was sharper than ever. Every comment layered with defensiveness, guilt avoidance, or subtle mockery. Even when we had casual conversations, I felt like I was walking through a minefield. And yet, I kept hoping. Hoping she'd wake up, realize she'd made a mistake, beg me not to leave. Hoping she'd show the tiniest crack in her armor. She didn't. Weeks passed. I oscillated between planning confrontations and imagining a life without her. The pain was constant, like a weight pressing on my chest, refusing to let me breathe. I didn't want to forgive her. I didn't want to forget. But at the same time, I didn't want to lose the person I thought I married. It was exhausting, soul-crushing, mentally relentless. And I realized, painfully, that there was no timeline for moving through this. There was only survival, one emotionally jagged day at a time. By the end of that month, I knew one thing. I couldn't keep living in limbo. Something had to change. And I started thinking about my next step, not as a husband, but as a person. I spent a long weekend alone, pacing our apartment, staring out the window, trying to figure out what I wanted. Not what she wanted, not what I thought I should want, but what I truly wanted for myself. Part of me wanted to fight for the marriage. To go to counseling, lay everything out, rebuild trust. I remembered the good times, the nights we laughed until we cried, the tiny rituals that made our life ours. Part of me wanted to salvage that. But the other part of me, the part that had seen her lie, manipulate, and justify cheating with casual cruelty, knew something essential was gone. Respect. Safety. Love in a form I could recognize. That version of her didn't exist anymore. Maybe it never had. I made a list in my head. I could accept apology, effort, honesty. I could not accept repeated betrayal, manipulation, or being gaslit about reality. When I confronted her again, I told her honestly, I can't live like this. I can't stay in a marriage where I'm constantly second-guessing reality, where lies are easier than truth. She tried to argue, tried to say, we can work through it. I love you. But I learned the difference between words and actions. Love is choosing someone consistently, not sneaking around or justifying deception. I looked at her and said, calmly but firmly, I need to leave. I can't do this anymore. She gasped like I had slapped her. She yelled a bit, called me selfish and overreacting. But inside, I felt something freeing. Lighter. The weight of months of lies and betrayal wasn't gone, but I wasn't carrying it for her anymore. For the first time since discovering the affair, I could breathe. And even though it hurt, like a jagged knife embedded in my chest, I knew it was the right decision. Because sometimes love isn't enough when trust is broken beyond repair. I started planning the logistics, moving out, changing locks, setting boundaries, seeking therapy. Small steps, but steps toward reclaiming myself. And for the first time in months, I felt like I could see a life beyond the pain she caused. It wasn't happy yet, not even close, but it was real. And real felt better than the illusion she had been feeding me. Moving out was harder than I expected. Packing up my life, carrying boxes that held memories of laughter and love that now felt like ghosts, was exhausting. Every shirt, every book, every photo screamed reminders of her and the betrayal. Friends tried to help. They offered advice, distractions, shoulders to cry on. But grief is a lonely thing. No one can feel it for you. And anger, too. That cold, simmering rage had to be experienced, owned, and eventually let go. I started therapy. At first, it felt awkward. I couldn't even explain the mix of shame, heartbreak, and disbelief. But talking, naming the feelings, tracing the manipulation and lies, helped me untangle myself from the mess she had created. Some days were brutal. Some nights, I'd wake up thinking I'd hear her footsteps, see her smile. Those memories stabbed at me like a cruel echo. But slowly, day by day, I began to reclaim myself. I stopped blaming myself. Not completely. Betrayal leaves a residue of self-doubt, but enough to recognize that her choices were her own, not mine. That the way she treated me was never my fault. I reconnected with old hobbies, rediscovered small joys I had put aside, and allowed myself to imagine a future without the constant fear and manipulation. It felt surreal at first, but gradually, the idea of being whole without her didn't feel impossible. The heartbreak didn't vanish overnight. It still lingers, like a bruise that aches when I move a certain way. But for the first time since discovering the affair, I can see forward. I can imagine laughing again, trusting again, maybe even loving again, on my terms. And most importantly, I learned that walking away from someone who consistently hurts you isn't failure. It's survival. It's the first real act of love I've done for myself in years. Tomorrow, I'll keep moving forward. And that's enough for today. Looking back, the thing that hurts the most isn't just the affair. It's the slow erosion, the lies, the gaslighting, the small betrayals that built up over months until one day, everything exploded. That's the part people don't warn you about. Betrayal isn't always a single moment. Sometimes it's a million tiny cuts you don't see until you're bleeding out. Here's what I learned the hard way. 1. Trust your instincts. I ignored the signs for months because I wanted to believe she was the person I thought I knew. Don't do that. If something feels off, investigate, ask, pay attention. 2. Actions, words. She said she loved me. She said she wanted to work on our marriage. But love isn't words. It's consistent choices. And her choices proved she wasn't committed. 3. You can grieve and survive. It feels impossible at first. Your heart feels broken beyond repair. But time, therapy, and support will help you breathe again. You will be whole. 4. Set boundaries and enforce them. I had to walk away hard. No contact. No compromise on the fundamental betrayal. Sometimes love isn't enough to save a marriage. Respect and trust matter more. 5. You deserve honesty. Always. If someone can lie to your face, manipulate you, or justify hurting you, they don't deserve your time. Period. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt. I still miss what we could have been. I still replay memories that make me ache. But I've learned the difference between someone who chooses to stay with you, flaws and all, and someone who treats you like a convenience. For anyone going through this, it's terrifying. It's devastating. But you are stronger than you think. You can survive betrayal. You can reclaim your life. And eventually, you can find someone who actually values the love you give. Sometimes the hardest thing, walking away, is the most loving thing you can do for yourself.